Hello, welcome to Thursday's little video. So I'm Lindsay, from Lindsay Elliott Wellbeing Coaching, and I'd like to talk today about something that I'm really passionate about in my work, with my clients, and in general in life, which is where our experience of ourselves really comes from, and the beliefs that we hold about ourselves that we believe are true, and that sort of need to fix or change ourselves. So this is something that I have had a lifelong relationship with. Like many of us, the belief that I need to fix or change myself in some way. And when I came across an understanding a few years ago about how our experience of life is really created, this really significantly changed for me. And so now it's something that I'm really passionate about, as I said, in my work with my clients, because I see so many people struggling with feeling insecure, feeling anxious, feeling stressed, feeling like they're not good enough, feeling like their self-worth is attached to what they do, to their job, to their children, how well their children are behaved, particularly, to the size of their body, to how their face looks, to any number of things. People are attaching their self-worth to it. And what I want to look at today is that which is changing and moving all the time in our experience, and that which is constant. So what I have seen is that 100% of the time, with no exceptions, our thoughts are bringing our feelings. So we have a thought, and then the shadow of that thought is experienced in our bodies as a feeling. So if we have a thought of, I'm not good enough, be that an unconscious thought or a conscious thought, then we will get to experience the emotion of that within our bodies. And if we think a thought for long enough, if other people also tell us their thoughts about who we are and how we're getting on and what we're doing, and we think that over and over, then this becomes a belief, and it can become something quite fixed within us that we believe about ourselves, such as I'm insecure, I'm not good enough, I'm anxious, I'm too busy, whatever it is that we have got going on in our consciousness and in our mind. And when we know that 100% of the time, anything that we feel about ourselves is coming from our thinking in the moment about ourselves, so in that very moment, then there begins to be some freedom. Certainly I've found some freedom. So rather than believing there are certain fixed things in my personality, knowing that the only thing I'm ever experiencing in life is the thought that's passing through my mind, my thinking in the moment about myself, and that's bringing feelings about myself, has been very liberating. So you may have had the experience in your life that thoughts and feelings and behaviours shift and change all the time. It's a constantly flowing, moving, ebbing and flowing energy. It's that which is moving. So all the time we have a thought coming into our system, into our intellect, into our mind. That brings a feeling with it. When we get a feeling, we're then likely to engage in some sort of behaviour. So as an example, if we have the thought, I'm too busy, I'm overwhelmed, or if we have the thought, I don't feel good enough, comparing ourselves to others, judging ourselves for how we've been feeling, we're going to experience the thought of that, if that's an emotion of that. If that's an uncomfortable emotion, then we might engage in a behaviour that innocently we believe is going to help us feel better, which might be a glass of wine or a chocolate biscuit or buying something on the internet. So it's important to see the thought comes, the feeling comes, and then the behaviour comes. But equally, we can have a day when we're in a low mood, and all of that thinking about ourselves will be pretty negative. We'll get the negative feeling, and then we may engage in a behaviour to try to help ourselves to feel better, to get back to a better feeling space. And then another day, our mood may be higher, and we'll have thoughts that are quite positive about ourselves. I'm doing okay, I'm feeling secure, I'm feeling happy, I'm feeling confident. We get the feeling of that, and then we get the behaviour of that. And in those spaces, we tend less to engage in the behaviours that we think make us feel better, because we already feel good. So that which is changing, so innocently, we then start to believe that all of the things we believe about ourselves are true, when actually, when we look at our experience, as I said, it's shifting and changing all of the time. So trying to change this bit of our experience, this bit that's changing and ebbing and flowing, doesn't really make sense. It's like trying to grab air or grab water and try to change it, because it's ebbing and flowing, and it will do this on its own. There's nothing that we need to do about that. That isn't the place to be looking for that internal sense of happiness and of peace and of well-being and feeling secure in ourselves. The only way we ever get to feel insecure about anything is that we have an insecure thought, we get an insecure feeling, and then we may act out on a behaviour to try to change that feeling because we don't like it and it's uncomfortable. That's the only thing that's ever happening. And knowing and seeing that process is incredibly helpful. The same thing, I have an anxious thought, I have an anxious feeling, and then I may act out on a behaviour in order to help to change that feeling. And innocently, this is where we look to try to change things. But actually, when we can see that this is moving, this is changing, this is flowing all of the time, and we don't have to take it seriously. We don't have to believe it. We don't have to act on it. We don't have to do anything about it other than allow it to be there and to let it pass through. So as a sort of visual representation of this, we can look at it that it's a bit like putting on glasses. So if I put on my glasses of an anxious thought innocently, like we have no control over what thinking comes into our minds, but if we put on the glasses of anxiety, we're going to have anxious feelings, and then we're going to engage in behaviours to help us with that anxiety. Or if I put on my glasses of insecurity, I'm going to have an insecure feeling, and then I'm going to act on behaviours that will help me to feel better. But if I know that I can just take those glasses off and I see a different reality, but even with these glasses on, it still isn't who I really am. So even with my insecure, anxious glasses on, that still isn't who I really am. It's just a filter, a lens through which we're viewing the world. And any time, at any day, when we see that this is happening, when we see that 100% of the time our experience of who we are is coming from our thought in the moment and not from who we really are, then we get to take these off. And we get to see ourselves, we get to see the world through a completely new, fresh light. And the other part of the equation for this, for me, is looking at who we are before all of this thought is occurring. So there is a space within us in which thought in the moment occurs, in which the power of thought comes to us. There is an awareness within us. Some call it life force, some call it our soul, some call it our true nature. There's lots of different words for it. But really, for me, it's just the awareness and the space that is before thought, that's the place to look. That's the place to really focus our attention. And in that space is the power that powers the whole universe. So this may sound a little more esoteric than my usual videos, but it is something I'm very passionate about, is rather than looking at all of the thoughts and feelings and behaviours that we are experiencing, that are transitory, that are moving, that are not constant, if we look at what is constant within us, which is the awareness of who we really are, which is the energy source that powers all of life on this planet, that grows trees, that grows babies, spins the planet, beats our hearts, and is running through us, and we live within it. When we look to that, to where the source of our experience is coming from, to the power of everything, and knowing that we live within this and have this within us, then quite naturally we can let go of all of the sort of intellectual thought that's running through, all of the experiences are running through, and know that there is a space within us that is constant. Now, my sense is, and I don't know this to be 100% true, but I think it's 99% true, and there are some people who say it is 100% true, but I think it's something we have to find out for ourselves. What is in that space? What is underneath all of the noise in our minds? What's underneath all of our thinking about ourselves? For me, I believe in that space. It is a space of love. It is a space of compassion, of well-being, of resilience, of natural happiness and natural peace that is always there, regardless of what's going through our minds, regardless of what glasses we've put on. And when we know that this space is here, when we know that this power is within us, that something larger than ourselves, larger than our human selves, is really running the show for us, we can rely on that and we can rest in that. And we can know that if we're having an experience that's difficult, if we're having thinking about ourselves that's insecure, that's anxious, that we're not enjoying, we know that that's going to shift and change, and we know that underneath that is a space of feeling confident, of feeling well, of feeling happy, of feeling secure and feeling peaceful. So I'd like to offer that if you are in a space of feeling that you really need to fix yourself, that you need to change yourself in order to be happy, that you just gently notice when the records are playing in your mind about who you are and what you've got going on, and when you've got when you're turning your headlights towards how am I doing, what's going on for me, when you've got your glasses on of insecurity or anxiety or overwhelm or stress or whatever it is, I'd like to gently offer you to suggest to yourself, what if this isn't true? What if this is transitory? What if this is thought in the moment, creating this feeling, creating this experience of who I believe I am? And what if I don't have to take this so seriously? It's really freeing to know that you don't have to take your thinking so seriously. It doesn't mean anything. It's not true. It's just passing through, and it's bringing an experience. And that divine intelligence behind life, the intelligence that powers everything, is always there for us to access and brings us new, fresh thought, wisdom, sight from within, intuition. We've got that going for us. And it's also okay to know that when you have got your glasses on of feeling insecure, of feeling anxious, of feeling like you're not good enough, that's okay too. Because we are human. We are both this expanded state of knowing that we are the intelligence behind life runs through us, we live in it. And then we're sometimes in that contracted space of feeling like we're not good enough, of feeling like we need to change, of feeling like we need to fix ourselves. And it seems to me that we ebb and flow between these two states all of the time. So when you find yourself in a contracted state of believing negative things about yourself, just see if it gently comes to you to ask, what if this isn't true? What if this is just experience moving through me? And what if I don't have to take this so seriously? And I think if you even get a glimpse of this or a sense of this being how life is created, how our experience is created, and that what's underneath that quite naturally when we're not hooked into the glasses and the busy mind of what's going on about ourselves, that quite naturally we are whole, we are good enough, and there's nothing that we need to fix or change. There's never anything that we need to fix or change. I think we can rely on the intelligence that runs through us to do any changing or fixing that needs to happen. So I hope this has been helpful. If you're interested in exploring this in a more deep way, to really be able to let go of all of that negative rubbish that you believe about yourself. And I'm super passionate about helping people to see this. So do get in touch just to have a chat or send me a message. Yeah, and I'll be back next week with another video. So I hope this has been helpful, and I hope that if you can even get a tiny glimpse of who you really are and what you've got going for you, and that none of it needs to be worried about, then I hope that's helpful. Okay, and I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching. Bye.